Welcome to another exciting episode of Humanity 8.0, a podcast where we talk about movements and initiatives that seek to move humanity to its next epochal iteration. This podcast is brought to you by Witlingo. When it comes to managing a community, one of the keys to success is the ability to effectively communicate with the members of that community. If you are a service coordinator or responsible for community engagement, Witlingo provides a multi-channel, multilingual notification and engagement platform to help you work more efficiently and effectively. For more information, please visit www.witlingo.com. That's www.witlingo.com. And now, here's your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Imagine that. Anyway, I mean, I'm saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So, just to clarify, I don't know who your audience is or who would be watching this or listening to it, but just to clarify, my intention is not to impose my opinions on everybody else. My intention is to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm saying here is I'm throwing in what I think. So let's hear what you think now.
Exactly.
And the crux of direct democracy, the book, is basically four principles. Well, the first one is the government exists to serve the people. That's why we created government in the 1700s. We needed to create a tool to protect and preserve our rights.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't exist for any other purpose. That's what government is. But secondly, I'm saying exactly what you're saying. The people should vote directly on legislation, and the representatives should simply coordinate and carry their votes forward. That's their job, representative, simply to vote, to orchestrate a collective organized voting of their constituents.
Yep.
So that the constituents, the citizens, the taxpayers, the eligible voters in the population are the ones who make the decisions, not the representative. And then thirdly, and this is the one that gets the most knee-jerk reaction from people. Thirdly, representatives don't need to be elected. They're like civil servants. Their job is to represent the people. You're hiring somebody to work in a government position to represent, not to vote for people, but to represent people who will be voting.
Yep.
And therefore, there's no reason to actually elect them. They can be randomly selected through an intelligent filtration process, I call it, from people who opt in to the whole procedure. And as I point out in my book, you could do it on your tax return. You could opt in to be a representative. You can be randomly selected based on your number, social security number, or what have you. And then the selection, and then it's filtered down. I mean, you have to make sure they're legal and citizens and can pass a test, basic government test. People who get elected, they don't even know how the government works. They might not even know what the branches of the government are. It's crazy to have representatives elected because they have the backing of billionaires, but they have no, knowledge about government.
They have a staff that is permanent, more or less, right? It goes from one to those are the guys who do the things, and this guy simply pushes the button. They are an avatar, basically, of special interests.
Right. Exactly. So we need to get around that. We need to find a way, a solution, and my opinion is that we human beings, we create everything.
Everything on earth is created by anything that is not natural is created by us. That's sort of it's
Right.
everything. You're right, exactly. Yep.
So let's put our heads together and create a better form of government. We don't have to throw out the Constitution. We don't have to change much of anything other than how we make decisions and how our money is spent. It's the legislative branch that spends the money, that allocates the money. We need to control that branch.
Yep.
And we have to find a way to do it. And so I'm saying direct democracy. This is the future.
I agree. I think the technology is here for that. Go on. I'm sorry.
People, there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction. Oh, it's mob rule, this and that, and but when you think about the United States government when it was formed in the late 1700s, there's a couple of things to take into consideration. One, the population of the whole country was 2.5 million people, about the same as Chicago today. Secondly, there were no paved roads or cars or electricity. We hadn't even tapped into electromagnetism.
Yeah.
As a species, as a humanity, as a species, we haven't even developed electromagnetism. So the whole system was designed in that era, when also, from what I can gather, almost a third of the population were slaves.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, of course,
out of that 2 million.
Yeah, like 800,000 slaves, something like that.
Yeah.
Or 750,000 slaves.
Then women, right?
And then the women, of course, didn't vote, and they didn't really want to, because it wasn't easy. You had to get on a horse or something, a buggy, and go somewhere, spend the days maybe traveling.
There
was no way for people to do what we can do now.
Exactly.
So we have to do something now that makes sense, and not just keep following an antiquated system that isn't working. And we have to start talking about it. So the question is, well, how do we do it? That's how we do it. We start asking questions and finding answers. We human beings can create the future that we want. And we will. We
will if we act. That's my thinking. There's a lot of I'm a believer in action, as you are, right? Because this creating a book is an action, right? It is a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of collecting of information and all that, putting it together. So I think there's nothing inevitable one way or the other, right? There's no reason why we should say it's too late, we're gonna die, or that we will figure things out, right? I think we need to act like you're saying. We need to act now. And I think the moment is here. For me, this book is really a constellation, a lot of thinking and reading and all that, all these years, and an awakening and so forth. And for me, what I'm hearing from you is sort of exactly what I've been thinking about, which is let us engineer our way out of this predicament, this very dangerous situation.
Right.
I mean, human beings create, like you said, right? And what what really is sort of frustrating is there is a lot of energy. People are smart. People have a means, right? People, if you look at the people, for example, I don't follow sports that much, but people follow sports or gaming and all that. And there's a lot of intelligence in the way they talk about things, and they know a lot of stuff, right? And they think strategically, tactically. They say, okay, well, this team is not ready this year, but in a couple of years. So they have the sophistication to think about complex things. They do, right? Politics, our lives, is not complex. It's not as complex, really, because it's our life. We know it viscerally. We know, what it mean. What does it mean to raise a healthy child, right?
Yep.
What does it mean to stay healthy, right? If you're informed, right? What does it mean that something is not right? What is it? I mean, we have all those things internalized, right? So when somebody says, well, it's too complicated for the regular person to weigh in on a bill, I say, are you kidding me? Do you know what else they do really with their time? I mean, they get into hobbies. They have the brain capacity far more than what is needed, right? So I go back to the work person being, and on top of that, they have common sense, right? They have common sense, right? Common sense is, is it better to negotiate, or is it better to go to war? Well, common sense is like, let's negotiate, let's figure it out, let's just talk. Both people want to talk. Well, let them take a year talking instead of a year of killing each other, right?
Right.
That's common sense. But no, when you have special interests, common sense disappears, and then they start giving you stuff that makes you start hallucinating about stuff that doesn't exist. Russia is going to take over Europe. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
on its face, I mean, the regular person wants to say, do you think that, let me give you some stats, right? Russia is, the GDP is this, and Italy and Spain and the army is not, okay. So now that what do you think that Russia is? They can't even conquer like northern Ukraine. You think they take over? Why would they take over? Why would they take over? Why would China get into war? I mean, China continues to say, we just want to do commerce with you guys.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
just, let's just be reasonable. And they're like, no, you see, they're deceptive. They want, and then the United States, we have the temerity to go, near their borders
Right.
and then just come close to their border. And then
Provoke.
when their plane says, get the hell out of here, say, oh, look at them. They're aggressive.
Yeah.
Imagine China around
Right.
Florida coast. Can we
Oh,
imagine
yeah.
that? No, because we are special people, right? We're better people
Mhm.
than these folks. Now, for me, I think the key to success, and I'm sort of putting myself into this, is the following. We should not ask permission, right?
That's right.
We should go ahead and decide. For example, I'll give you my strategy, and I would love your feedback on it. And it's in the book, but I want to just share it with the audience, which is the following, right? In Virginia, for example, we have off election for state Senate and state delegates, right? It's 2025, 2027. I think we are one of two states or three states who are like that off cycle, right? So in 2025, I want to basically run for state senate for no other reason than just get the word out about independent and try to recruit as many people as possible. In 2026, I want for each one of our 11 congressional districts in Virginia to have somebody who is independent and who's pushing this notion that it's time to move independent, right? Each one of these, and then hope to start making some noise. We need to get the brand of independent to be a thing. It's time to get rid of the parties.
Yeah.
I don't care what party it is. The Good
Yeah.
People Party, forget the party. Think independent. You make a decision depending on what the people want. And sort of the innovation that I think would be interesting, and I think people are receptive to it, if we try, again, it's all about trying, is to say, imagine, do you believe in the jury system, for example, right? It's 12 people listening to evidence and making the case, and then whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. What
Mhm.
matters is that it was done, everybody agreed, move on with our lives, guilty or not guilty, right? Of course, there are complications here and there, but overall, the jury system works. It really does, right?
Mhm.
Justice is rendered. I think, right? As opposed to it's the judge who decides.
Mhm.
He or she, they listen and they'll decide unilaterally. And then you get into influence and corruption and so on. The jury is sequestered. There's this whole point about let them just listen to the evidence and make the decision. Imagine we figure out a way where instead of 12, we have, I don't know, 100 people. Those 100 people, we figure out a way to select them, and there are many, many ways, like you were saying, right? And then with those 100 people, they all have to be working class. That's my thing, right? Working class. Could be teachers, factory workers, who are, and then people will start saying, you're a lunatic. I say, I am not as lunatic as somebody who decides that we need to send our children to war. Okay, so just listen to me and be patient. And let's make it happen, right? And so 100 people selected, somehow, and then they're anonymous, whatever. We figured it out. 100 people, and that those 100 people, for every single piece of legislation that comes from congressman, they will listen. If it's 51 want this, you press the button, right? And so that's a message that sort of cuts through. Are you pro-abortion or not pro-abortion? Are you this or that? Are you pro? I don't know. All these stupid issues that divide us, right? They completely disappear, right? And it becomes issue by issue by issue by issue, right? And it takes away, like, if we want to, for example, take away money from the system, if you want to do campaign finance reform, good luck. It's not going to happen. It's not going to. If you want to do, we call it what do you call it? The electoral college. If you want to reform that, it's not going to happen, right?
Right.
But what's going to happen is if we take every single Congress congressional seat one by one, and then you look at it as a long-term project, right? I
Yeah.
think we can get there. And every single step, here's the thing, every single step is doable. As an
Yeah.
engineer, I always think about, is it doable? Is it doable? Is it doable? Therefore, the whole thing is doable if we
Mhm.
just show perseverance, energy, get the right people in, message,
Right.
build the brand, and just make sure that everybody understands that that is actually a doable solution that does not ask for permission at any point in time.
Right.
This thing about debating people and trying to convince them and all that is okay at the lowest level, meaning when we're talking amongst each other. But when you have politicians talking, all they're doing is they're posturing. They're not really arguing with each other. They're
Yeah.
sending signals, virtue signal, whatever it may be, right? As opposed to real talking things through. So, as someone like you who has been thinking about this a long time, what would be your recommendation in terms of somebody like me right now who really wants to act in this way, where I'm going very low level and going up, right?
Right.
And winning one state at a time. Like, for example, my dream would be to have, and it's a modest dream, is to have one congressional candidate, independent, under this sort of brand where, that we're talking directly around in each one of the 11 congressional districts. It's a humble ambition, but if I can have the whole states covered and I can get some media coverage about this movement that's emerging, I'm going to consider myself having won in 2026, right? So if I can do that in 2 states or 3 states, then it's ecstasy, right? I'm really happy. But do you think it's something that can work? Do you think that
Well, I think
doable?
I think you're on the right track. It's the exact, well, it's pretty much exactly the same thing that I would be explaining to people. First off, no, you're not going to ask for permission. The government works for us. We don't work for the government.
Yeah.
And that has to be hammered in. But secondly, we can do exactly what you're saying at any level. We don't have to start with
Yeah.
the Senate. We could start with the borough.
Exactly. Yeah.
We start with the counties. We could start with the local governments, and the whole thing can once we get some group or some progressive, intelligent community who's willing to embrace this form of government and enact it within their own group, and then demonstrate how it works. It's much more likely that more groups then will look at this and say, we want to do this too.
Yeah. Success. There's nothing better than success.
Right.
Go ahead.
Another thing I wanted to point out was I've been involved in nonprofit. I'm executive director of a nonprofit trade association right now, but I've been involved in nonprofits for about 50 years. And what happens is in groups of people is there's only a small number of people who care enough to get involved, and I use the number of about 15%. So you have 100 people, 15 maybe are the ones who are going to do the organizing, and they're the ones who are going to empty the garbage and do all the stuff that has to be done. So when you mention selecting 100 people or something like that, I think the selection it should be self-selected. People should opt in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But given that everybody should have the same opportunity, but it's going to be the self-selection process is going to be also self-limiting, because 85% aren't going to do anything. You'll still end up with that 100 or 1,000 or 50,000 people, but they're going to be the ones like you talked about, the guys, the people who are intelligent and can think and can solve problems and everything like that. That when they know that their positions will actually make a difference.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And it's not a full-time job. It's you could do it at home on a weekend or something.
Right. Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier about not having to go into work, you can work from your house. Well, government can operate the same way.
Yep.
You don't have to, make it a full-time job. My son was talking. I was talking with him about the other day, and he said, "You can pop your phone out, and you can, bet on a horse race or
Yep.
anything like that. Why can't you pop your phone out and look at the legislation
Yep.
that's being presented and offer suggestions as to how it can be improved during the legislative process? And it can all be done in a decentralized manner, controlled by we the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, we don't need to ask for permission.
No,
Right? I mean, if we elect someone who is going to commit to voting exactly as 100 people in that let's call it the grand jury, right?
yeah,
Then the government can't say you can't do it,
right,
right?
right. That's it.
They decided the way to vote, and that's it. And once you, anyway. So I did this. Did something like this 20 years ago in a completely different setting where people said it's not doable. And let me describe it to you because I want the audience to hear it as well, which is the following. There was a Palestinian intifada in 2020. Sorry, 2000, in the year 2000. There was a second intifada, big intifada, right? And I was living in Philly at the time, and I saw the coverage was atrocious in the sense that they dehumanized the Palestinians completely, right? And then in terms of op-eds, there would be 9 out of 10 would be pro-Israel hawk, whatever.
Yeah.
10th one would be milquetoast, right? And so I wrote a letter to the editor and I said, "What is going on? You're not doing your job, right? What's this? Why are you covering it this way? First of all, the facts are just twisted. There's a lot of omission. You're using terrorists, exclusively on Palestinians. Even when there is a settler, like say a settler goes and shoots somebody, call them a vigilante, right? So there's a whole language.
Sure.
So what we did is I wrote a letter, and then I took 4 people from the Philly who are Arab, Palestinian, Muslim, and we went sat down with the editorial board, right? Like 5 folks, right? They gave us time. We sat down with them, and we gave them a report. We did 6 months of collecting how many op-eds, the errors in their reporting, and we presented to them, right? And they said, okay, well, that's fair, okay. And then what happened is like a year later, as we were, it became 50-50 in terms of op-eds coverage, okay?
Oh, wow.
50-50 right now. So I had this organization called Palestine Media Watch, and I had on the advisory board, I had Chomsky, I had Herman, I had like big folks like Hanan Ashrawi, I had what's his name? Finkelstein was on the board. This was 20 years ago. And so we took that model of success from Philadelphia, where it was clearly we were making success. Even Chomsky, the most cynical person in the world, I love him, but he's like, there's nothing you can do about this. It's the way it is. He was astonished, right, that we were able to do that, right? So we did it in Washington Post, New York Times, LA, and I'll send you this. There was somebody who wrote a whole dissertation about our movement, right? I'll send it to you, right? And so what I learned from that is everybody said, you are confronting the impossible. There's no way for you to get are you kidding me? The Philadelphia Inquirer is going to do a 50-50? And then the facts, we gave them the facts, right? What that did, so the lessons I learned is, number one, if you break the labor, right, in such a way that you say, okay, you are going to just focus, just count the letter of, the op-eds, right? And then you just focus on the news coverage, and here are the things you can look out for, right? If you break the labor and you give them a vision, the vision is we are going to go from here, from this number to this number. And then they see that vision happen, the level of energy is overwhelming in terms of they want to do more of that, and they bring other people in,
Right.
So my thing is take on a big problem, number one.
Right.
Number two, solve that problem at a very micro level and show success, and do it in such a way that it's sustainable so that people are not going to get exhausted. These folks, they were more than happy to just count the op-eds and then put them in little documents. And when it's time to write a report, and now that we have generative AI, you can write a report just like this. We wrote a report, and then we go every quarter, we meet with and so we created change, right? We created something, and then once that happened, here's our error. Here's what our error. Once that happened, so it's over. It was over 4 years where we really got things where we wanted them to be. There was a huge, huge attack on the organization from people who didn't like at all what we were doing, right?
Yeah, right.
There was, and I'll send you about that as well, a total like email sent as if they were coming from us. They were anti-Semitic. They wanted to mess our brand completely, right? And which they did because people got scared. And it was it was just after. So we started before 9/11. With 9/11, it created a whole atmosphere where all these folks who are doing things, right? We were able to survive for another 3 years, but then they started just attacking, right? Where people, these are regular folks. They have children to take care of. They didn't want to
Yeah,
get right?
sure. Right.
Right. And so it's totally reasonable. But the point is that it's doable if you provide a big vision. This vision is big, right? We want to take over our Congress. We want to reclaim our Congress. It is our Congress. It is not the Congress of Jeff Bezos and all those people. It's
Right.
ours. And
Bill
it's not
Gates.
doing our bidding. So the vision has to be exciting. And then the labor division has to be such that, right?
Sure.
The thing we need to figure out is how do we ensure that when we start, because we will see traction for sure. Like you said, the journalists are dumb and lazy. Oh, you didn't say that, but I say that. The journalists are dumb and lazy. The politicians are dumb. They're not. I see all these mistakes these politicians make in their campaigns. Like, real. I mean, these are not formidable foes. They are not. They are not. With enough intelligent people just moving in the right direction in a concerted way, with a strategy, right, and just understanding that it takes offense and defense. It takes divide the labor. It takes excitement, energy. The energy level out there. I mean, it's just like you see all these pods of energy and they're just not doing anything. Unleash them, and the unleashing is right now it's totally doable, except especially with the technology that we have.
Yes.
For example, a bill could be written in a way that is just completely convoluted. Not even a congressman reads it or understands it, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But there's technology that will take that, will summarize it in a way that you can understand it.
Right.
And it
Sure.
summarizes in a very accurate way because I'm in that world. There are ways to use the technology very responsibly so that you can enable people to understand what the bill is all about, to provide their feedback. Like you said, everybody has a smartphone almost, right? They can immediately, if they can do FanDuel and they can do all those things, they can definitely do this because it touches. What if it's something that you care about a lot? Or, right? We've discovered that young people care a lot about Gaza, much more than we thought. I was pleasantly surprised to see how much energy is out there. So for me, tapping into that generation, which is suffering. I mean, Gaza for them, I think, is just a symbol of a lot of things. Just a lot of things. Their life is just wrecked right now. They can't buy a home. They can't do this and they can do that. Anyway, hopefully, I'm communicating the level of excitement to you and
Yeah.
to the audience. And the most important thing is never get cynical. It's doable. With enough people getting.
Sure. Absolutely. People don't have a smartphone. They can go to the library, use a computer there, log into their, their government account and do their legislative business like that. There's always a solution. And the time is now. We can't just let these idiots destroy our country.
And they are doing it. We are heading there. I mean, it's
$35 trillion in debt. That's all money that went into somebody's pockets.
right.
And who's supposed to pay that back? Your grandchildren, I mean, what the hell is going on? We have to get control of this. It's like the United States government is, at the highest levels is basically organized crime.
That's right. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it's true, and we're being used, as I point out in my book over and over. Direct democracy, but we're being used like cattle, milked like cows, and the treasury is being gobbled up by pigs, like pigs, in a slop bucket. We got to turn this around, and I think what you're saying is exactly right. It resonates with people. Direct democracy makes sense when you think about it. And it does provide a solution. And we need to, here I am, there you are, there's two of us. Tomorrow there might be four of us. The next day, 8, 16, next thing you know, there are millions, and not just in the United States, but around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I really sincerely believe that it's doable if we do it step by step, like you said. So two of us, I can get another person tomorrow, and then you can get another person tomorrow, and they get, I mean, and it's completely doable, and we just need to act, and we've had enough. And right now, if we don't act, we deserve whatever is coming because it is within our reach, within our grasp. And
Right.
when people say, well, the world is coming apart, and my answer to them, are you saying it for real? Because if you were saying it for real, if something was falling on you right now, you would move,
Mhm.
right? Or are you just saying it? Are you
Right.
just saying it because people say it? Because I don't think you believe it. If you believe it, you would do something dramatic if the world is coming apart, right? But
Mhm.
apparently you're gonna wait until your house is on fire, perhaps. Then you're gonna get up, right? But if you believe the world is coming apart, it's time to do something dramatic. But the thing is this, that we cannot move the system. Let's use the system. Let us use the system. Let's
Right.
go and be representatives. Let's just use it. Otherwise, the obstacles are just too much. You're not going to reform the electoral college. You're not going to reform the money flow. By doing this, the money flow goes out de facto. Nobody's going to give you any money if you're not influenceable.
Yeah,
Disappears,
sure.
right?
Right.
Nobody's going to give you money. These people are actually extremely, what do you call it? What do you call it? They are really stingy with their money, the rich people.
Yeah.
The richer you are, the stingier you are. I think we
Yeah.
talked about it before, right? And then the poorer you are, which is an interesting phenomenon, the more generous people are,
That's exactly right.
And so the guy is not going to give you a cent, right? If he doesn't think or she doesn't think that you are going to do their bidding.
That's
And so
right.
all these people who are just saying, I can't help you, dude. I got 51 people out of the 100 saying I should vote this way, and that's what I'm going to do. And they're like, okay, you're not going to get my millions of dollars. What can I do, right? All of a sudden, the money disappears. So I'm a big believer in de facto, almost like physics, the physics of getting solutions done, the physics of getting, you get rid of money not by legislating it out because the people are not going to do that for you. Why would the congressman say, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna vote for something that will cut, the nice honey? They won't do it. So you create the physics of it. And now there are many places where we can do that, I think. Um, so can I ask you a question about, like, you are in Pennsylvania, right? Okay. Do you know how many congressional districts are there? It's a fat state in the sense that it has lots of delegates.
I do not. I do not.
In
But
Virginia, it's 11. In South Carolina, it's 6. In Utah, it's like 4. So my point is that I can find 4 people in Utah, right?
right.
And then in Wisconsin, it's like 6. I have 3 folks already who said I will take a district, right? So you can see that it's not very hard, and it's not very hard actually to get on the ballot, right? It's not very hard.
Yeah.
To get on the ballot for state delegate, you need 25 signatures or 50 signatures.
Hmm.
To get on the ballot as a state's delegate, as a state senate candidate, I think you need 125. To get on a congressional, you need 1,500 or 1,000. You need 1,000, 1,000. And you have like a year, almost 8 months to get it, right? And so it's every step is doable. It's not
Oh
like we
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
100.
I've collected ballots for candidates in the past. I've been involved in these things, like I say, for 50 years.
Yeah,
So the main thing right now, from my point of view, is just to get people to start thinking about these alternatives. Just start the conversation, for Christ's sake. We need to start talking about this and build the numbers before long. I don't know how long it'll be, but before long, we're going to have thousands of people. We're going to have conferences and maybe conventions and things
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
with speakers and the whole 9 yards. But right now, it's you and me. So,
Yeah. So I just looked at it. It's 17 districts in Pennsylvania, 17 people, right, that we can find.
okay.
And then our mission would be just ensuring that to help them get on the ballot, right, for 2026. So I'm thinking 2026 is the year where maybe you can have 2 or 3 states. And then the thing is, the media is always hungry, right? They're lazy. They're hungry for stories, right? So the story of a movement, an
Yeah.
independent movement, and actually they have 3 states now. And then now they start. Media is important in that sense. It gets you exposure, it gets you out there, and people will invite you. And who knows, if we get 6, 7, 8 states, C-SPAN will invite you to talk about it, or me, or whatever, right? And all of a sudden, I believe that once you trigger and you make yourself, this movement is easy to understand, and it's actually creative, and it's maybe just like people went from Obama to Trump, or went from whatever, from Bush to Obama, right? They took a radical turn. Maybe they'll take a radical turn and say, not blue, not red. I'm gonna try this thing here because it sounds like maybe what we need, right? So I think, anyway, I would like to invite you officially, if I have not already, to be on the advisory board for this movement, to rural representation.
Oh, of course, I'd be more than happy to.
That would be wonderful to get the wisdom that you have accumulated these years. And then this book is really an important book. I'm going to do my best to ensure that the word gets out about it. And then I will, after the election, so November 29th is when the advisory board is getting together. We are now 6 people, right? And our goal is to figure out how do we make an impact in 2026. And there's a whole bunch of strategy that needs to be taken, but it's all doable. And I think I'm a very optimistic person. I think you are as well, from what I read, because you believe that it's something that's within our grasp. We can do it.
Do you meet remotely like this, or do you meet in person, or?
We're gonna do a remote because we have people from Wisconsin. I know we have people from South Carolina, so it will be a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
An initial Zoom meeting. I want to have as many people attend as possible. So we'll do it that way. Right now, actually, I'm traveling. I'm in Jersey, right?
Okay.
And so one of these days, I would like to visit with you, and just
Sure.
face to face. I love to meet people face to face. You get 3 dimensions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah. Love to do that. Anything else you want to share with the audience in terms of, where we are? Well, let me ask you, who do you think is going to win on Tuesday?
Well, I mean, look what happened in 2020. I thought Trump was going to win by landslide. I went to bed on election night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and in Pennsylvania, Trump was ahead by hundreds of thousands of votes, an insurmountable lead. And the next day, all the mainstream propaganda outlets were yelling, Biden won, Biden won. So I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens this year. The thing is, 2020, the courts were not willing to look at the evidence. The court cases that were filed, they dismissed them on lack of standing. And so what they're doing now this year is they're filing the court cases prior to the election, so that the courts can't say you have a lack of standing.
I see. So they learn from that.
Yeah, they've learned from that. So if they try to pull the same thing this time, I think the Republicans have a head start on they learned from the last time, and I think the courts are being a little bit more reasonable now. For example, in Virginia, they just ruled, the Supreme Court just 6-3.
Yep.
Ruled that they can clean up the voter rolls, so it may end up being in the courts for a while, but I think in the end, Trump and his team are going to prevail.
Yeah. I think they're going to prevail without having to go through that, to be honest with you.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I think it's just, the fact that they have lost all the Muslims, basically, completely.
Who has?
Harris has lost basically the Muslim vote and the Arab vote and to the Greens. That is not insignificant. I think Michigan is going to be very, very close, or it's going to tip over to Trump. I think that, and if they lose Michigan, I think they're in deep trouble. I think Virginia, for example, is going to be a lot more purple. If not, it might not. If they lose Virginia, they're done. They're cooked. Right? It's it. Right. but it's gonna be a lot more purple because I am in that in that world of Arab Americans and all that and all that. I have not met a single person who said I'm gonna vote for Harris. They either going voting
Yeah.
for Jill Stein or for Trump. They're not sitting it out, which is good. I'm like, good, go ahead and make your voice heard, right? But I don't think they understand the anger and the frustration and the disgust. Genocide is genocide, and not everything else, abortion and everything else comes second. That's it.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, everything else, well, you want to be able to have an abortion when you want. Fine, good for you. But no, killing children with our own money comes number one. Everything
Yeah.
else is number 16,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. So, like, and then this lady is completely, I don't know, she has zero political savvy or just common sense. When they asked her about, what do you think, what do you tell the voter who believes that it's immoral to vote for you? She said, well, they can say that, but, there's this and there is, inflation and there is this. You're not addressing it at all. The fact that this is a moral choice, right? I would, if I were her, I'd say, I completely respect what they have to say. They should do whatever is in their conscience. We tried the best that we could, even if they didn't, right? And we'll continue to try, but she continues to insult these people, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be one of they're going to be shocked because they really believe that they being the Democrats.
So your background is Palestinian then?
No, I'm Algerian, North African.
Algerian.
Yeah, North Africa. And then my position on Palestine is sort of very typical of all Arabs and Muslims out there, right? We really, we grew up with that conflict as being the last new colonial. It's a colonial thing. It's not anything other than that. It's
Yeah.
people's lands taken away from them, as opposed to anything that has to do with religion or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
Muslims are the least anti-Semitic people in the world. Really, trust me. We have saved. There were pogroms by the Christians and all that. Muslims were the ones who protected them and all that and all that. So there isn't that dimension. The dimension is purely the land taken by, the white people, the Europeans, right?
Right.
For centuries we lived they lived just nicely with each other, no problem. All of a sudden it became the colon. Anyway, that issue I think is going to be an important issue, just like abortion rights are important but I think we'll see there'll be turmoil. I don't think they will just accept it as it is. I think
Oh,
there'll
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there'll be turmoil. And I think that turmoil presents an opportunity, I think, unfortunately, for not a third party, but independent. We don't want any more of these special interests,
Exactly.
the cages of a party. George Washington was the one who said, "Beware of parties," I think, in his inauguration or his farewell, right?
We need to think outside the box, so to speak. We have to come up with a solution that's not going down the same rutted road. We have to, go do an end run around all this BS and come up with new ideas. And that's what we're talking about here
Yeah,
today.
we need to let the people, govern. That's it.
Exactly.
We need to-
Exactly.
Okay, Joe, thank you so much. I mean, I've taken up more than 1 hour. I apologize. I enjoyed it so much that I'm selfish, and so I just kept on. I appreciate your time very
Well,
much.
maybe we'll meet in person at some
We
point.
have to, not maybe. I think we definitely need to meet in person. I think you and I are on the same wavelength, and I always get more energy when I sit down with people who sort of understand where I'm going and help me out with with making sure we don't make mistakes. Because you have
Okay.
instinct, I think, right? You have instinct as far as what works and what doesn't work. And I'm sort of a novice in relatively speaking. But let's act. Let's do things together. That's what I
Absolutely.
like to do, right?
Absolutely. And I
Do things
really
together.
appreciate this whole meeting you and what you're doing. And
Yeah.
it's very, very important.
Thank you very much. And so hopefully I'm going to send you an official invitation to be part of the advisory board. It'll be on the 29th of November. It's going to be a Saturday. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to attend. And
29th is a Friday.
is it a Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's a Friday. I thought it was a Saturday. 29th is a Friday. Everybody else says they are fine with it. Hopefully you'll be fine with it. Saturday
Day
morning.
after Thanksgiving.
It's going to be the day after Thanksgiving?
Day after Thanksgiving, right.
November 29th.
It's the 29th. I don't know if that may be.
Okay, well, that's let me make sure, because I thought everybody accepted. Interesting. Okay.
It's I live out in the country and I hunt.
You hunt. Okay.
I have my own private hunting ground, actually. That may be the first day of rifle, which is the big
Okay.
big deer hunting day.
We'll figure out the date that works for everybody.
Okay.
I want to make sure you're part of that for sure. And then hopefully I can convince you to be our chairperson for Pennsylvania. But we'll get to that point.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
We'll get to that point when we're there. All right. Thank you so much, Joe.
Okay, thank you. See ya.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Humanity 8.0 with your host, Dr. Ahmed Bouzid, founder and CEO of Witlingo.